Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. And how do you know this is the experience you need? Because this is the experience you are having at this moment. I'm asking today, why do we let our mistakes overshadow our good decisions and accomplishments? What I know for sure is that mistakes are here to help define us. And when I started the Oprah Winfrey Network, I definitely made some mistakes, some missteps. If I was to write a book about it, I would call it Mistakes 101. And I was hired in television, not knowing anything about it, having in mind Barbara Walters, but thinking, oh, okay, I can do that. Not knowing how to write or film or anything. And I think it was because it was the times, and I literally had somebody who was willing to work with me that I managed to find my way. But I had to find my way because the reporting never really fit me. And what did work for me, I'm this old, I'm so old that when I started that, it was a year of live action cam. So it was like video cameras live. And so the news stations would do a live shot. They would throw to somebody live, even if nothing was going on. And what I found is I wasn't so good at the writing part, but if I was just standing up and talking about what had just happened, it was really good. And then I started to feel, so I started in 19, working in television, became an anchor immediately afterwards. I got an offer to go to Atlanta. I was making $10,000 a year in 1971, but still in college. So I got an offer to go to Atlanta for $40,000, which I thought, it's over. I'm gonna make $40,000. And my boss at the time said to me, you do not know what you don't know. And you need to stay here until you can learn to write better, until you can perfect your craft as a journalist. And so he said, and we can't give you 40, but we can give you 12. To make a long story short, because I'd be here all day just talking about how it all came about, I started listening to what felt like the truth for me. I started to feel that reporting wasn't for me. But I had my father, I had my friends, everybody was saying, oh my God, you're an anchor woman, you're on TV, I mean, you can't give up that job. And by the time I was making 25, my father goes, well, you just hit the jackpot, you're not gonna make no more money than that, that's just it. So I was torn between what the world was saying to me and what I felt to be the truth for myself. It felt like an unnatural act for me reporting, although I knew that to a lot of people it was glamorous. And I started to just inside myself think, what do I really want to do, what I really want to do? And I will say this, knowing what you don't want to do is the best possible place to be if you don't know what to do. Because knowing what you don't want to do leads you to figure out what is it you really do want to do. When I was a news reporter, it was so unnatural for me, to cover somebody's tragedies and difficulties, and then to not to feel anything for it. In business terms, or to leave you with the message, that the truth is, I have from the very beginning listened to my instinct. All of my best decisions in life have come because I was attuned to what really felt like the next right move for me. So when I got the call to come to Chicago, starting with a co-anchor and working in talk for several years, I knew that it was the right thing to do. Every single person, except my best friend Gail, said you're gonna fail. Every single person when I left, my bosses by this time thought I was terrific and said, you're walking into a landmine, you're gonna fail, Chicago's a racist city, you're black, you're not gonna make it. Everything to keep me staying. They then offered me a car and an apartment and all this stuff. And I said, no, if I fail, then I will find out what is the next thing for me. And I was not one of those people, all of my, the people who worked with me in news, they would have their tapes and they'd have their stories and they'd have, resumes ready. I didn't have any of that because I knew that the time would come where what I needed would show up for me. That showed up, I was ready. Because my definition of luck is preparation meeting the moment of opportunity. Right. And I was prepared to be able to step into that world of talk in a way that I knew I could do it. I changed how I viewed power about 1989. There was a book I read by a man named Gary Zukav called Seed of the Soul. And in Seed of the Soul, he defined what is true power, what is authentic power. And his definition of authentic power, being the kind of power that can never be taken from you. Not your looks, not your fame, not your money, not your square footage, but authentic power is when the personality, your personality, comes to serve the energy of your soul. When you are able to align who you are, who you've become in the world, with really what you've come to do in the world, when your personality serves the soul. So I thought a lot about that. That book was actually life-changing for me. And I was building a home in Santa Barbara. And as anybody who's ever built a bathroom or a home or anything, nothing ever happens on time. And it was 2002, and we were supposed to be finished, and it wasn't finished. And I was like, I can't wait to get in my house, and I'm finally going to have a great Christmas, and I'm going to do the kind of Christmas that I dreamed of from the Courier and Ives, cards. So I'm going to have the wreaths on the door, but I didn't have a floor, so it's a little difficult to do that. So I started to think, if I can't do that Christmas, well, what am I going to do for Christmas? My house isn't even ready, and what can I do? So I started, as I was walking around through the trees, sitting under that tree, because my favorite time is to be alone with my thoughts. And as I was alone with my thoughts, I was thinking, what would be the next best possible Christmas for myself? And I thought of the best Christmas I ever had. The best Christmas I ever had was when I was 12 years old. My mother was on welfare. I was living with my mother and a half-brother and sister in Milwaukee. My mother called me, the oldest, into a room to say, we won't be having Christmas this year. I said, we won't be having Christmas? What about Santa Claus? There is no Santa Claus. I had already figured that out, but okay. I was embarrassed and I was ashamed because for the first time, I had to face the reality that, what I've been suspecting, that we're not like the other kids, that we really are poor, is true. So we're not going to have Christmas, and there is no Santa Claus. My first thought, after being embarrassed and ashamed, was, what will my story be? What am I going to tell everybody when we go back to school and they're showing their toys and I don't have anything to talk about? What am I going to do? I'm not going to go outside tomorrow when everybody's out in their yards showing the toys they got for Christmas. I'm going to stay inside. Am I going to pretend I'm sick? What is my story going to be? Well, late that night, some nuns showed up at our house, and they brought a basket of food, and they brought toys for my brother and my sister. And I was overwhelmed with joy that those nuns showed up. Not because they brought me a Tammy doll when I really wanted a Barbie doll. I was overwhelmed because somebody remembered that we existed, and somebody cared enough in the middle of the night to come to our house with food and toys. And also, I would now have a story. So as I was contemplating, that was the best Christmas I ever had, I thought, how could I make that possible for somebody else? What could I do to create the same kind of experience for other children? So I took 50 members of my team at Harpo and hired another 50 people in South Africa. And we went to South Africa with the idea of creating something that we ended up doing a documentary about called Christmas Kindness. Christmas Kindness, using my personality to serve the energy of my soul. So we went from village to village, offering toys and clothes, food, soccer balls, to children who'd never experienced Christmas before. And early in the morning, you could see them lining up by the thousands to come. And we actually went to 10 or 12 villages to do this. And people said to me at the time, oh, that's so frivolous, and the kids won't remember it, and why don't you use your money to do something else more substantial, Oprah? And I said, they may not remember the toy, They may not remember the clothes, although they were most excited, the children, to open boxes containing clothes because, as their caretaker said to us, having new clothes made them not feel poor. And for so many of these kids, it was the first time they'd ever experienced. I know you all have heard the phrase, everybody makes mistakes, countless times in your life, and maybe even said it to console someone and encourage them to not dwell on a misstep. So I'm asking today, why do we let our mistakes overshadow our good decisions and accomplishments? What I know for sure is that mistakes are here to help define us. And when I started the Oprah Winfrey Network, I definitely made some mistakes, some missteps. We launched before we were ready. And I gotta tell y'all, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done a lot of things differently. I remember saying at the time, if I was to write a book about it, I would call it Mistakes 101. Sometimes when you aren't listening to those inner voices and the knowing of your own purpose, you can get off track. And even when I know how to listen, sometimes if I don't listen, I get off track really quickly. You can get in the wrong relationships, or you can do things prematurely, get yourself off track. Well, this is what I know. Every perceived mistake can be an opportunity to know better and do better. And from that perspective, there really is no such thing as failure. We may perceive it that way in the moment, but things always turn around and eventually lead you to the path that you're supposed to be on if you're paying attention. What are you here to do? What are you here to fulfill? What are you here to offer? Maybe it's friendship, companionship, leadership. Maybe you're all the ships, including the mothership that's always steering things forward for the rest of the people in your life. Well, I want you to know this for sure. Life is like a wave, and you ride it through the ups and downs, the steady times, and then you anchor yourself in the storms. A mistake is a life experience designed to move you in a different direction. And a mistake might be more important to your supreme destiny than even a triumph. Know that your life is way bigger than any one experience, so when those mistakes happen, you use them to guide you to the next right move.